Good morning and welcome. Welcome to all gathered here in the pews and to those joining us on the live stream. I am grateful to be gathered together in all the ways we gather these days. I open our time together this morning with words from my colleague, Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. Come, let us enter this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion, and compassion. Come, let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us celebrate together. My friends, for this chapel service, we come holding our own spiritual paths, our own language for the holy, our own understanding of what is most sacred to us. As we join in a moment in singing our opening hymn, the perhaps familiar words and music of Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee, I invite you to sing your own joy and gratitude for whatever holds meaning in your life. Let us open our hearts to the infinite diversity of human experience and the shared wonder of human life. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our opening hymn.
Thank you. Good morning. Please take a moment to look around you. Observe this place. Observe each other. Take a moment to think about what you see. Think about what you've experienced this weekend. Hold these thoughts. This year, being together in person is even more poignant after the isolation of the pandemic, and I feel blessed to be in your company. As I finish my 5th year here at Emma Willard, I often think about the way this building has served the generations of Emma girls and women, and how it holds a special place in our hearts and in our minds. It will continue to do so in years to come, in different but in no less exciting ways. We gather here for the solemn and beautiful occasion of honoring our community and its dearest members, those here and those who are gone, with words and music meant to capture our love, gratitude, and a sense of higher purpose. We meet here at the end of a weekend of activities to say goodbye. We meet to acknowledge that this place has changed us. Think about what you see and what you have seen this weekend. Take it with you and let it nourish you, so that you may resume your work in this world renewed. It is your parting gift to each other. Thank you for being here, for being with each other, and for our beloved school. It meant the world that you were here with us this weekend. Please join me in a responsive reading. You have gathered to give witness to the enduring strength of friendship. We have gathered to give thanks to the collective accomplishments that have blessed us during our time apart. You have gathered to celebrate your commitment to each other and to the place that nurtured you, your young minds, not so very long ago. We have gathered to laugh, to cry, to hold each other tight for a brief moment, and to listen to the sounds of women who care deeply about all that is important in life. You have gathered to guide each other with the wisdom that has become your own during the life journey you have taken. We have gathered to affirm the values that have withstood the test of years and have formed the foundation for our strength and grace.
Values that have stood the test of years. This reunion has given us the opportunity to remember the values and those years, whether short or long, to tell stories of what was, to share news of what is. We've shared photos of children and travels. We have recollected memories and wondered, did it really go exactly like that? And we have missed those who are no longer among us. I want to invite us into a ritual of remembrance this morning, a ritual to honor those we have lost over the decades. I have here a bowl of water, water that symbolizes life, water that covers the earth, water that connects us. And I have river stones made smooth over decades and centuries and millennia. Stones are often used for remembrance, stacked in cairns or placed on a headstone, even carried in a pocket, a reminder of one we love. Today, I will invite an alumna from each decade to come forward and place a stone in the water for classmates who have been lost. You will find the names of all those we remember listed in your program for each graduating year coming to this reunion. After the stone is placed, I will invite you to join me in a response. We remember them. Sarah, will you come forward and begin our ritual, placing a stone for those from the 1950s? We remember them. Thank you. Debbie, will you place a stone for those from the 1960s? We remember them. Aldrina, will you place a stone for those lost from the 1970s? We remember them. Annabelle, will you place a stone for those from the 1980s? We remember them. And Robin, will you place a stone for those lost from the 1990s? We remember them. I place a final stone for all the little losses, for those we miss and hold, those we remember from faculty or staff, from many decades, part of this school community. We remember them.
May the road rise up. After EW, I went off to Sweetbriar College. About 7 years ago, we got notice that the board of directors was closing the college. This was shocking, and a whole group of alumni gathered together and said, "Not on our watch." And they proceeded to we did fundraising and we did legal action and went ahead to save Sweetbriar. I realized that I had totally taken my college experience for granted. It wasn't until it was going to be taken away that I went, wait, it meant something. It's the way I felt about the news about the chapel. I was gobsmacked. It's like, what? Wait, you can't take away the chapel. But then I thought, well, now why am I reacting so strongly? The first thing I did was ask my sister, 4 years younger than I am, what she remembered about the chapel. And she said, the music and smelling chlorine as we sat in church. So this helped me remember that this building has been repurposed before, that it was a gymnasium before the alumni decided to make it into this beautiful chapel. And that helped. And then I thought about the music. Who is not moved by music? Who is not inspired or touched? And that we had every week the organ and the choir bringing the sound. It was a place I realized where the heart and the soul were touched. And in a school where we work on our minds so often, I realized how important that was. That music, that appreciation, and whatever you understand faith, music reaches us in a different way. So the worship, the music of worship. I heard from another alum from my class, and she said, I remember it was so peaceful and quiet. I remember the peace and quiet. And I also remember this as a place of escape where we'd come and sit. My niece, Ashley, also came here, and during her probably sophomore year, her father was killed. And they brought her here to the chapel to hold the conversation. And she would tell me that was important to her. So this chapel has held us as a place of refuge, peace, and quiet. I heard and agreed with many alums about the importance of the St. Francis prayer, which is now in this sort of storage room. But many people who weren't particularly enamored of weekly chapel would say they would walk by there and those words would get to them. How we live, what is our purpose? Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Another memory, another reason to feel emotional about this place. And for me, this chapel reminded me of the power of place. I'm sure you can all think of certain places that hold power for you. It could be Sedona, it could be your backyard stream, it could be sitting at the nursery where your child was raised, it could be the Grand Canyon, it could be music, a music hall. This place holds all of the prayers all of the music, all of the thoughts, all of the rituals that have happened here as a chapel. It holds it in the beams, in the walls, and that won't change. That will always be here to feed us, to feed this place, to make it special, to let ourselves get beyond the rational mind and reach for something bigger or better. When I was here, the history of music teacher was Miss Taylor. Miss Taylor taught me that religion wasn't simply repeating a bunch of words. It was a place, the power of place throughout the Hebrew people's journey, the power of the temple. In our Renaissance, the power of the buildings that reach to the sky, to the glory of God. Place. For me, this was a place. Miss Taylor used to bring us in here and talk about why this place was significant, what the various things meant, why the organ, the history of the organ, why the windows, why the little details, why the shape, why pews. And she taught me about that. Of course, this place remains. It's not going away. It will be repurposed. And in this kind of service, we're also deconsecrating it. We're also saying this does not have the power of worship. My prayer is that all of the things that the chapel did mean to us and generations of alums, all of those things I've been talking about, I pray that it finds another place on this campus where our girls can get beyond the rational, even beyond the physical, and understand the spiritual, understand what living for something greater than yourself means. And so we remember, and so we celebrate. Thanks be to God. Amen.
You Came To by Nikki Giovanni. You came too. I came to the crowd seeking friends. I came to the crowd seeking love. I came to the crowd for understanding. I found you. I came to the crowd to weep. I came to the crowd to laugh. You dried my tears. You shared my happiness. I went from the crowd seeking you. I went from the crowd seeking me. I went from the crowd forever. You came too.
Robin, thank you so much for bringing that poem to us this morning. And Reverend Keenan, thank you for your reflection on all that this place holds. I love Nikki Giovanni's poetry, but that one was new to me. There is a line that stood out right away. You dried my tears. You shared my happiness. I've been preparing to come to Reunion for a while now, got my tickets, and then started trying to figure out what to pack. I actually texted a friend saying, I can't figure out what to wear for Reunion at any of the various events. I need an outfit that communicates that I'm emotionally mature, successful adult who's made really good life choices along the way and definitely doesn't carry any anxiety anymore about whether the cool kids will want to sit with me at lunch. Is that like a pantsuit or maybe it's a dress? I'm not sure. Is it flats? Maybe, like me, you packed along with your clothes worries about how you would measure up to your fellow alums. Maybe that's just me. It's okay. I don't mind owning those scars. But at some point during the reunion, dressed in something that I really did feel conveyed emotional maturity and good life choices, I realized we were doing something different with each other here. The moment, I think, when it changed came early for me. It was at Friday night's dinner. We had had our flights of local beer, really nice beer garden, by the way, folks. We'd played some cornhole. I was terrible at it. That's okay. They already knew I didn't do well in gym. And somehow we started talking about life in our early 40s and how we can't sleep well anymore. And did anybody know a good book to read about menopause? Conveniently, we had a doctor, an OBGYN in the group, and she did know a good book to read about menopause. I assume this is a regular topic of 25-year reunions, although perhaps not typically addressed at chapel service. And I thought in that moment, that's right. This isn't about comparing achievements. It's about going through life together. Emma, this community isn't about being perfect, at least not when it is at its best. It's about being brave enough to be real with each other. And that is pretty amazing, actually, to have people who travel through life with us, who remember us when we were awkward and nervous and just beginning to become ourselves, to have people who can drop right back in to that connection after decades apart and see us as we are now, awkward and nervous and just beginning to become ourselves. Again and again and again. It is pretty amazing to have friends like that, community like that. Some might even say it is sacred. I think a lot about what is sacred in my line of work, about what makes something sacred. In Unitarian Universalism, the tradition that I serve, we have a pretty wide understanding of the sacred. We see it not as set apart from the world, but as tied up in it, part of the messy, beautiful thing that we call life, that we call each other. But of course, it is easier to see the sacred, to notice it at certain times and in certain places. Time set aside to celebrate and to remember. and in places that have shaped our lives, that have held our traditions. And this space, as Reverend Keenan shared, is surely one of those places. For those of us who had chapel here weekly, for those of us for whom it held flame ceremony and other special traditions, even simply these reunion chapel services, the remembrance of those lost and the gratitude for time together, these walls have surely held sacred moments. When we were planning for this service and we talked about creating a kind of ritual of remembrance, my first thought was to light a series of candles. Unitarian Universalists really like candles. We light one at the start of every service. Side note, when I began seminary, I actually was afraid to light matches, which it turned out was really a career liability. So that's my "you can overcome anything" inspirational message. So I thought of lighting candles, and then someone reminded me that candles are a no-go at Emma Willard, and of course I remembered the phrase, I don't know how many decades this phrase spanned, wood on the inside, stone on the outside, it's a natural oven. There we go, you know. The story when I was here was that if you so much as lit a match, you were expelled on sight. I'm not sure about that in retrospect, but then it seemed fitting that we would use stones for our remembrance. We are surrounded here at Emma by stones. Stones holding up the walls of our beautiful campus. Stones absorbing all the sacred moments. The big ones, like ceremonies and traditions, and the little ones. Students whispering in the hallway or sneaking down to the bowling alley. Students living their lives, becoming themselves. Every moment a sacred one, surrounded by these stones. Reverend Keenan has spoken so beautifully about how this space, once transformed, will still hold the memory and the, are they buttresses or? Somebody studied architecture here. The memory and the wood things, some of which I know will be continued in the new space. The memory of the words that have meant so much to people over the decades. But I believe, too, that the new space will be made sacred simply by the community gathered. By the flame ceremonies, by the chapel services at reunion weekend, but even more by morning reports, by whispering through, I'm sorry, Jenny, the principal's remarks, made sacred by homework scribbled at the last minute because your first class just didn't quite get done last night. Made sacred by generations of Emma students, finding new ways to be together, new spaces to make sacred, to make special. In our poem, Giovanni writes, I came to the crowd seeking friends. I came to the crowd seeking love. I came to the crowd for understanding. However you came to reunion this weekend, whether you packed your worries, and I swear I brought actually 8 dresses. That is a true story. Whether you came tentative or eager, worried, wondering, I hope you found in the crowd this weekend someone who laughed with you, someone who dried your tears. I hope you found the bravery to say how life really is. Not the list of degrees or accomplishments, but the true stories of what these decades have been since we were together last. I hope you found in the crowd of this community a reminder of all that Emma was for you. I hope you remembered the hard times as well as the good ones. It is the full thing that makes it sacred. And I hope you found in the crowd of community a glimpse of all that Emma yet will be, held by the smooth stones of the campus, the smooth stones of our lives. I hope, friends, that you came here and found somewhere between the beer garden and the cornhole, the parade and the Mardi Gras beads, a way to be yourself. For that truly is a sacred moment. And I hope that as Emma continues to transform in space, in student body, in hopes and mission and vision for the world, I hope that at the center of it, we will remember it is a place where we can be all of who we are. Not perfect, but real, and certainly sacred. I invite you again to rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, written by EWS alumna Lucy Holstead, I believe, during these pandemic years. Let us sing, friends, in gratitude for coming together across the miles and in this space, in this moment. We all need each other. Reunion may remind us every 5 years, but it is true every day. Keep reaching out. Keep being brave. We all need each other, not perfect, but real and sacred. May it be so. Amen.